I've had quite a day today. It has been absolutely thrilling. I actually got a first-hand look at the Cybertruck. That video is coming as quickly as I can get to it. Unfortunately, for those of you waiting on that, this video is a bit of breaking news as Tesla just unexpectedly released a brand new version of the Model Y. And if you look into the details, including the EPA certifications, you can start to put two and two together. So we're going to unpack everything about this new Model Y and see if we can figure out what is actually happening here. Like I said, this was so unexpected. Out of nowhere, Tesla has decided to bring back not just a standard range Model Y like we've been calling the all-wheel drive out of Giga Texas. They're actually bringing a true rear-wheel drive standard range Model Y. I will go over all the details about the previous version because a couple of years ago, Tesla did release for a very short period of time a true standard range Model Y. This too was a rear-wheel drive Model Y and it featured 244 miles of range. We're going to head over to the computer now because there's a lot to look at over there, and I'll show you everything that we can, including how to find these EPA certifications. All right, so making our way over here to Tesla's website, we're actually going to scroll down to the Model Y, and of course changes the purchase price, but we can see now a rear-wheel drive Model Y is here at $43,990. That is insane. That is such a good deal. That is almost $7,000 cheaper than the long range all-wheel drive, about $6,500 cheaper. And this version comes with 260 miles of estimated range, 135 mile an hour top speed, and 6.6 seconds 0 to 60. This is very similar to what we had previously when we had a standard range Model Y. That vehicle, when it launched, was listed for $41,990. It reduced down to $39,990 before ultimately being pulled off the menu. It was only around for like 2, maybe 3 months technically, if you count a couple of days in one of those months. That was such a short-lived offering, and it was such a good value because the discount, including versus now, is so big. That $6,500 discount is one heck of a deal. That is a lot of car for the money. And if we look through this, there's nothing that seems to be missing as far as the interior goes. You don't get a slimmed down interior, but here's what you do lose by going with the standard range. So if we look at the interior, let's start here. Let's go over to where all the features are listed. So we have 13 speaker audio, music over Bluetooth, 128 gigabytes. Yep, heated front and rear seats, heated steering wheel. So nothing's really been trimmed. It even has the biodefense mode, which is cool. Let's change this over to the long range Model Y and see how that compares, because I'm pretty sure even the stereo is the same over here. Yes, 13. So it's the same audio. It's the same car. All the same features. Now, one thing I noticed when I selected the vehicle, on the exterior of it, here's what is missing. It's pretty obvious when you see it. So we can see the fog lights right here as soon as I go to standard range. So it removes the fog lights. So this is very similar to the rear-wheel drive Model 3, except you still get that full premium interior, which is really nice. And that's kind of important. Now, I'm not sure what else is missing here. I did hear, however, that we do not have that folding shelf in the rear that covers, the cargo space in the back. Is a newer item that came out a year or a year and a half ago. That is not included in the rear-wheel drive Model Y. Other than that, this is the same car. It's a rear-wheel drive, 260 miles of range, and qualifies for that, of course, $7,500 tax credit. Let's put that into terms that make just a little bit more sense. So here's my world famous tracker, and as you can see, we had the standard range Model Y came out at $41,990. It dropped to $39,990, and actually I forgot, it did go back up to $41,990, and right before it was removed, it went up to $43,990. And if I remember right, this all happened in a matter of days when it went here before it was pulled off the shelf altogether. So now we're back over here at $43,990. So it's literally the same price price as its last available price in 2021. That's a pretty awesome deal. And then these prices would represent the all-wheel drive Model Y that we've had for some time with the 4680 battery cell. And that's kind of a question too. What battery does it have in here? And I'll get to that in a moment. But first, when we factor in this tax credit, $7,500 off, assuming you qualify for the full tax credit, this car comes in at $36,490. That is an amazing value. That is a ton of car for the money. This is such an awesome car, and you're going to lose the fog lights and a cover to hide items in the back of your car, and you're going to have rear wheel drive instead of all wheel drive. This is such a good deal though. And looking here, it looks like it can deliver in October. So it's interesting because we've seen some of these in the parking lot at Giga Texas. So that must be this new rear wheel drive Model Y once that started back up. So very exciting there. Now, let's get on to the conversation of the battery, because this is where things start to look a little bit interesting. So if you ever want to look at the certification for a new car, this is where you're going to find it on the EPA's website. We can actually go down here and we can go to any of these different certifications that they store, but for now we'll just keep it on all. And these are light duty vehicles, and we're going to want to go to 2023. And we're going to want to go to Tesla. So right there. And once we get to this page, I should have moved this already, but make sure you have enough on one page. There's 24 line items here. And what these are different versions basically of the certifications for these vehicles. So right here you can see Model Y rear wheel drive, Model Y rear wheel drive, Model Y rear wheel drive. These are actually all part of the same thing. This is basically the master file with everything, and then these are the two different things. So there's the certification, the one pager, and then here's all the test data. So the actual details of the testing are right here. On the third page, I believe it is, right here, we can see some information about this vehicle. It's a 350 volt battery pack, and battery energy capacity is 174. So in order to get an estimate basically of what the battery pack is here, we would take 350, we would multiply that by 174. We have a 60.9 kilowatt hour battery pack, and this is pretty consistent with what the rear wheel drive battery pack has been in the past. So let's take a look at that Model 3 and compare them. So here's the Model 3. This is the rear wheel drive Model 3, and we can see again 350 volt pack, 174 battery energy density. So again, it's the same thing. 350 times 174 is 60.9. It has the same battery pack as the rear wheel drive Model 3. Meaning this is an LFP battery pack, I believe. That is how I decipher this information. If you look over at the long range and the performance, it's actually 235. So it's much different, and it's definitely clear on the long range Model 3 and the long range Model Y that is a very different battery pack than what we have. I cannot, however, find specific information on just the Model Y all-wheel drive for the battery pack, because it is combined with these long range and performance certifications too. So when you go down to that section, you're actually only getting the information on the 360 volt pack, which is what is on the performance in the long range. There's no additional sections that include that information for the all-wheel drive, so I can't compare it to the previously offered all-wheel drive out of Giga Texas, unfortunately. So what does that mean? That means it has the same LFP battery pack that we see in the rear-wheel drive Model 3, and that's really important to know, because that means it is not a pack that can only be charged to 80% daily. This is a 100% charging battery pack daily, and degradation on this battery is much slower. LFP battery packs actually can charge to 100% many more times than NCA can, which is the chemistry in the existing 2170 batteries. So it is still limited to the 170 kilowatt charge rate. It is 5 miles an hour slower than the Model 3, but everything else is the same. It charges the same speed. It has the same battery pack. So this is an LFP option, which is a really good option because instead of having a reduced range by only having an 80% daily, you actually get the full 260 miles of range. Now, if you do upgrade and get the induction wheels, it does bring you down to 242 miles. So there's a pretty big hit of 18 miles by switching wheels. So keep that in mind. The other thing to consider here is if you're in a cold climate, LFP battery packs do not perform quite as well in cold weather. They still perform fine, but you're going to have quite a bit more of a hit in the winter time. So if you have quite a long commute, maybe that's something to consider going with a long range instead. Otherwise, I would not think twice, even in a snow climate, of going with a rear wheel drive Model Y. This is an amazing value at $43,990. And if you have any issues in the weather, a good set of tires will complement the very sophisticated traction control system in this car. And also keep in mind, this is a heavy, heavy car. Traction is really good in these cars. So rear wheel drive, I had a rear wheel drive Model 3 in Indiana, and I had zero issues with it in the winter time. So that is the update for today. Very soon I am going to post the Cybertruck video. I got hands-on experience with the Cybertruck. It was right there in front of me, and I got to film quite a bit of it from the outside. So I'm very excited to share that with you as quickly as I can. It is currently 1 o'clock in the morning, so you're gonna have to bear with me. It may take a few hours after this video comes out before I'm ready to post that. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you next time.